Part 1. The Silent Courts. The Reed family's Nashville home was divided into two distinct territories. There was the front of the house, a pristine, white-columned affair, decorated in shades of beige and success, where business deals were made and magazine interviews were given. And then there was the back room, a cozy, soundproofed home studio that was Maya Reed's sanctuary and secret factory. The room smelled of old books, honey lemon tea, and the faint electric hum of recording equipment. This was where the magic and the money was really made. Maya sat at her old upright piano, her fingers dancing across the keys. A melody was pouring out of her, one of those rare, perfect gifts from the ether. It was a soaring, bittersweet chorus, full of longing and a hook so powerful it felt instantly familiar. She hummed along, scribbling lyrics into a worn notebook, her handwriting a messy, passionate scrawl. For Maya, this was breathing. She was a storyteller who spoke in chords, a poet who rhymed in melody. The studio door opened, and her twin sister, Chloe, glided in. The contrast was immediate and total. While Maya was lost in her heart, dressed in a comfortable faded t-shirt and leggings, Chloe was a creation of the modern world. She was dressed in stylish athleisure wear, her makeup perfect, her attention fixed on the glowing screen of her phone. "Hey," Chloe said, her voice bright and cheerful. "What you working on?" She leaned against the piano, scrolling through her Instagram feed. "Just an idea," Maya murmured, her hands still moving over the keys, playing the chorus one more time. Chloe looked up from her phone, a flicker of genuine appreciation in her eyes. "Ooh, that's pretty. Like, really pretty. It's got that drive in with the windows down vibe. The fans will love it." Her praise was sincere, but it felt like she was complimenting a new handbag rather than a piece of someone's soul. A moment later, their father, David Reed, entered. He wasn't just their father. He was their manager, a man whose smile never quite reached his cold, calculating eyes. He closed the door, shutting out the rest of the world, and listened. "Play it again," he commanded. Maya played the song from the top. It was a classic verse-chorus structure, but the lyrics were nuanced, telling a story of wanting to escape a small town, but being afraid to leave a loved one behind. When she finished, David was beaming. It was the look of a prospector who had just struck gold. "That's it," he said, rubbing his hands together. "That's the lead single for the new album. It's a guaranteed #1. And then it began. The process that Maya knew so well. The one that always left her feeling hollowed out. The three of them were in the room, but the conversation was now entirely between David and Chloe. Maya, the song's creator, became invisible. "We'll need to get this to the producer by Monday," David said to Chloe. "I'm thinking a big anthemic production. Drums that hit you in the chest, maybe a gang vocal in the final chorus." "Totally," Chloe agreed, her eyes lighting up. "And for the video, I'm thinking, like, a road trip theme. Me and my friends in a vintage convertible, driving through the desert. It'll be amazing for my feed." "Good. And for the story behind the song," David continued, pacing now. "We'll say you wrote it after our trip to Joshua Tree last year. You were feeling trapped by the pressures of fame, looking out at the endless horizon, and the melody just came to you. They built the entire world around the song. The marketing, the narrative, the visual identity, without once looking at the person who had pulled it out of thin air just moments before." Maya sat at the piano, her hands resting silently on the keys. She was the engine, but they were the ones driving the car. She was the heart, but they were the beautiful, smiling face, a silent partner in the creation of her own life's soundtrack. And the silence was beginning to feel less like peace and more like a cage. Pardieu, the face of the lie. The machine of fame, once activated, was a relentless, roaring engine. 3 months later, the song, now titled Horizon Heart, was the #1 pop song in the country. It was everywhere. On the radio, in commercials, in every mall and coffee shop. It was Maya's melody, her chords, her words. But it was Chloe's face on the billboards, Chloe's voice on the radio, Chloe's name listed as the sole songwriter. Tonight, the machine was in Los Angeles, in the buzzing, high-pressure backstage area of a major late-night talk show. Chloe was the lead guest. In the brightly lit green room, she was a bundle of perfectly styled nerves, pacing back and forth in her designer dress. David was in full manager mode, coaching her, feeding her the lines she would need for the interview. Remember, if he asks about the lyrics, David instructed, you talk about feeling lost in the desert. You talk about the metaphor of the endless road. You created it. It's your story. Maya stood in the corner, a quiet shadow in the whirlwind of stylists and publicists. Her role tonight was that of a glorified vocal coach. She handed Chloe a cup of warm tea with honey. Just remember to breathe from your diaphragm on the high notes in the bridge, Maya said softly. You tend to get a little sharp there when you're nervous. Thanks, May, Chloe said, giving her a quick, distracted smile before turning back to the mirror to check her lipstick. The moment came. Chloe walked out onto the stage to thunderous applause, a vision of confident, charismatic stardom. She laughed at the host's jokes. She told the charming, fabricated story of how she wrote Horizon Heart in a moment of profound, lonely inspiration. Backstage, Maya watched the interview on a small monitor, the lie echoing in the sterile, empty hallway. She watched her sister, her other half, effortlessly inhabit a life built on her own quiet, invisible work. It was a familiar ache, a feeling she had grown up with, but tonight it felt sharper, heavier. After the show, which was a resounding success, they were all in the limo, heading back to the hotel. Chloe was buzzing, scrolling through the glowing comments on social media. That went so well, she gushed. Did you see the look on his face when I told the Joshua Tree story? He totally bought it. Maya, feeling a small, reckless need to assert her own existence, decided to speak up. You know, she said quietly, in the second chorus, on the live version, maybe you could try a slightly different harmony. It might give it more lift. David cut her off before she could finish, his voice kind, but his words like steel. That's a great technical idea, honey. Really sharp. But let's leave the performance choices to Chloe, okay? He reached over and patted her knee condescendingly. That's why we're the perfect team. You have the raw talent. She has the star power. You're the engine. She's the driver. It works. The words hung in the air-conditioned silence of the limousine. You have the talent. She has the star power. It was the family mantra, the phrase that had defined her entire life. It was meant to sound like a compliment, a validation of her importance. But Maya heard it for what it really was, a beautifully packaged dismissal. It was the reason she was essential, and the reason she would always be invisible. The perfect team. A perfect lie. Part 3. Stolen Heartbreak. The end began with a broken heart. Not a metaphorical one, but a real one. Maya had been quietly, deeply in love with a musician she had met at a local cafe. A man who saw her for who she was, not who her sister was. And he had left her suddenly and without much explanation, for a life on the road with another band. The grief was a physical weight. For days, Maya couldn't eat or sleep. Her only solace was the piano. She sat at the keys and let the pain pour out of her. She didn't try to write a hit. She didn't think about choruses or bridges or radio-friendly hooks. She simply wrote. The result was a song called The Architect, a slow, mournful, devastatingly beautiful piano ballad. The lyrics were intricate and specific, full of private metaphors and raw, unvarnished honesty. It was about building a home inside another person, only to have them walk away, leaving you homeless in the ruins of your own heart. It was the most personal, most truthful song she had ever written. It was her pain, distilled into 4 minutes of music. One afternoon, seeking comfort, she played it for Chloe. Her sister sat beside her on the piano bench and listened, tears welling in her eyes. "Oh, May," Chloe whispered when she finished, wrapping her in a hug. "That's the most beautiful, saddest thing I've ever heard. I'm so sorry he hurt you." For a moment, they were just sisters again, sharing a moment of genuine connection. A week later, David called an urgent meeting. "The label is breathing down my neck," he announced, pacing the studio floor. "They need a summer single, something upbeat, something for the clubs. Horizon Heart is dropping on the charts. We need another hit, now." An uncomfortable silence fell. They had no other songs ready. Then Chloe's face lit up with an idea. "Wait, what about that new song Maya wrote? The Architect?" Maya stared at her twin, horrified. "No, Chloe, no, that's not... It's a sad song. It's about Ben." "But the melody is gorgeous," Chloe insisted, turning to their father. "It's a killer melody. We could just speed it up. Get a great producer, put a big dance beat behind it. It could be huge." "That's a brilliant idea," David said instantly, his eyes gleaming with commercial possibility. "No," Maya stood up, her voice shaking. "You can't. That song is mine. It's personal. It's not a dance track. It's my heart." David's face hardened. His patience was gone. "Don't be so precious, Maya," he said dismissively. "Art is a product. And right now, your heartbreak is a very valuable product. A brilliant producer can turn anything into a hit. The song belongs to the publisher, and I am the publisher. This is happening." And just like that, her most private pain was ripped from her hands. She was locked out of the process. They sent the demo to a hotshot producer in Sweden, who stripped it for parts. He auto-tuned her mournful piano melody into a shrill synth hook. He dropped a relentless thumping bass line over it. He had Chloe re-record the vocals, turning Maya's poetic lyrics about love and loss into generic, upbeat nonsense about dancing away the tears. A month later, Maya was driving when it came on the radio. The DJ announced, "Here's the new summer smash from the amazing Chloe Reed, architect of the dance floor." The thumping beat filled her car, a grotesque parody of her own grief. It was the sound of her heart being broken, put into a blender, and served up as a cheap cocktail for the masses. In that moment, listening to the sanitized, stolen version of her pain, she knew she was done. The team was broken. The lie had finally become too heavy to carry. Part 4. The Nightingale's Flight, the sound of her own manufactured heartbreak on the radio, was the sound of a final snap. The threads that had bound Maya to her family, duty, a twisted sense of love, and a deep-seated belief in her own inadequacy, all broke at once. That night, she drove home in a strange, chilling calm. The storm of emotion had passed, leaving behind a cold, clear certainty. She didn't pack much. She moved through the house she shared with her family, like a ghost, her footsteps silent on the plush carpets. She took her oldest acoustic guitar, the one her grandmother had given her. She took her notebooks, dozens of them, filled with the messy, ink-stained guts of her real songs. She took her laptop and a small audio interface. She packed a single duffel bag with a few changes of clothes. She didn't take any of the platinum records hanging on the wall, the awards that bore her sister's name, but were built from her own soul. They felt like tombstones. Before she left, she walked into the home studio for the last time. She sat at the piano and placed a single sheet of paper on the keys. The note was not angry or accusatory. It was just 7 simple words. "You can have the songs. I need to find my voice." She left her key on the table and walked out the back door, melting into the Nashville night. She drove until the city lights were a faint glow in her rearview mirror, then drove for 8 more hours, heading east, with no destination in mind, other than away. She ended up in Philadelphia, a city of brick row houses, history, and a gritty independent art scene that was a world away from the polished commercialism of Nashville. She rented a small, 3rd-floor apartment in a neighborhood that was more bohemian than beautiful. With the last of her savings, she paid the first month's rent and bought groceries. Her new life was aggressively, wonderfully anonymous. She got a job at an old, sprawling bookstore, a place that smelled of aging paper and coffee. She spent her days shelving books, her hands growing calloused from cardboard boxes instead of guitar strings. For the first time since she was a teenager, she wasn't the songwriter. She wasn't Chloe's sister. She was just Maya, the quiet girl who worked at the bookstore. For months, she didn't touch her guitar. The act of creating music was tangled up with too much pain, too much betrayal. She needed to heal her relationship with the one thing she had always loved. Instead, she read. She walked the city. She sat in coffee shops and listened to other people's conversations. She lived a normal life, a life blessedly free from the pressure of having to write the next #1 hit. The music, when it finally came back, did not come in a torrent. It came in a trickle. One rainy Sunday afternoon, she found herself humming a new melody while shelving a section of poetry. That night, she took out her guitar. Her fingers were clumsy at first, but the chords were still there, waiting for her. She started to write, not for a market, not for Chloe, not for her father, but for the sheer private joy of it. The songs that emerged were different. They were quieter, more complex. The lyrics were denser, full of the literary allusions she was now absorbing daily. They were stripped down, honest, and completely hers. She was writing her diary, singing her own quiet truth into the empty space of her small apartment. She was finding her voice, and it sounded nothing like the pop music that had made her a ghost in her own life. Part 5, The Birth of Echo. Maya's music remained a secret for almost a year. It was her private therapy, a conversation she was having with herself. The idea of sharing it with the world felt like a violation. The thought of fame, of criticism, of having her work processed and sold was terrifying. The change came because of a new friend, a co-worker at the bookstore named Liam. He was a sarcastic, kind-hearted art student who knew her only as Maya, the girl who could always recommend the perfect novel. One evening after work, he heard her humming one of her new melodies as they were closing up. "What's that?" he asked. "It's beautiful." "Oh, it's nothing," she said, her face flushing. "That's not nothing," he insisted. "That's a real song." After weeks of gentle prodding, she finally, hesitantly, played one of her new songs for him, sitting on the floor of her apartment with her acoustic guitar. It was a song about the strange freedom of being invisible in a new city. When she finished, Liam was silent for a long moment, his usual sarcasm gone, replaced by a look of genuine awe. "Maya," he said softly, "that was stunning. You can't keep that to yourself. It's selfish. People need to hear this." His words planted a seed. The idea of sharing her music was still scary, but Liam's perspective shifted her thinking. Maybe it wasn't about her. Maybe the songs weren't just hers to keep. Maybe they belonged to anyone who might find a piece of their own story inside them. She knew she could never use her real name or show her face. The connection to Chloe would be immediate. She needed a shield, a persona. She thought about her new music, how it felt like a reply to a sound that had come before, a resonance of a past life. The name came to her instantly. Echo. For her visual identity, she wanted something elegant and mysterious, not a gimmick. She didn't want a full-face mask. It felt too theatrical. With Liam's help as a budding photographer, they experimented. They shot videos of her performing in silhouette, with the light coming from behind her, wrapping her in a glow but keeping her features obscured. They played with lens flares, with soft focus, with shots of her hands on the guitar or the piano, but never a clear shot of her face. The effect was intimate, yet anonymous, drawing the viewer's attention to the music itself, not the person performing it. She chose the first song to release carefully. It was called Cobblestone Heart, a quiet, intricate song with a complex, finger-picking pattern and lyrics that compared a guarded heart to the old, uneven streets of her new city. The production was a world away from the glossy pop she used to write. It was bedroom pop in its purest form, her own voice, clear and breathy, her own guitar, and a subtle self-produced harmony. It was raw, authentic, and honest. She created a simple YouTube channel. No banner, no profile picture, just the name. Echo. She spent an hour staring at the upload button on her laptop screen, her heart hammering with a terrifying mix of fear and exhilaration. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. With a deep breath, she closed her eyes and clicked. The first echo had been sent out into the world. Part 6 Whispers on the Web. For the first week, the Cobblestone Heart video had 73 views. 40 of them were probably from Liam. Maya felt a strange sense of relief. The world hadn't noticed. She was still safe in her anonymity, but the 73 people who did watch it were captivated. The comments that slowly trickled in were different from the ones that flooded her sister's social media. There were no fire emojis or comments about her looks. Instead, people wrote paragraphs. "I don't know who this is, but this song just explained the last year of my life to me. The lyrics are incredible. It's like listening to a short story. This is real music, thank you." One of those listeners shared the video on a small subreddit called RR Listen to This. a forum dedicated to discovering unknown musical artists. The post was titled, "This song by Echo has been on repeat for 24 hours. Hauntingly beautiful." From there, the slow burn began. The post got a few dozen upvotes. A few hundred more people listened. One of them was the host of a small, independent music podcast. He played Cobblestone Heart on his next episode, raving about its lyrical depth and emotional honesty. That podcast was heard by a writer for an influential taste-making music blog called Stereogum. The writer, intrigued by the mystery and the quality of the song, wrote a short but passionate feature. The article, titled, "Who is the Mysterious Echo and Why Can't We Stop Listening?" was the tipping point. The writer praised Echo for being the perfect antidote to the overproduced, soulless pop that dominates the airwaves. The irony was so thick, Maya could taste it. The writer celebrated the artist's anonymity, framing it as a statement against the cult of personality. In an industry obsessed with image, the article read, Echo forces us to do something radical. Just listen. The article linked to her YouTube video. This time, the views didn't trickle in. They flooded. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. The mystery of her identity became a central part of her appeal. The comment section exploded with theories. Was she a famous indie artist experimenting with a new sound? Was she a Nashville songwriter who had finally had enough of the industry machine? The speculation only fueled the interest. One night, sitting in her small apartment, the lights of Philadelphia twinkling outside her window, Maya read the articles and the hundreds of new comments. A small but fiercely loyal fan base was forming around her. They didn't know her name, her face, or her story. They just knew her music. And they loved her for it. She had been writing songs her whole life. But for the first time, she felt heard. A quiet confidence began to bloom in her chest. She opened her notebook, picked up her guitar, and started recording her second song. The whispers on the web were getting louder, and she was finally ready to give them something more to talk about. Part 7. The Deafening Silence. While Echo's star was quietly rising in the indie constellations of the internet, Chloe Reed's was beginning to flicker. The departure of Maya left a void in the Reed family operation that was not just creative, but existential. David, in his panic, threw money at the problem. He hired the best professional hitmakers in the business. Teams of Swedish producers and LA-based top-liners who were famous for churning out formulaic pop hits. Their first effort was a song called All Night Long. It was a marvel of pop engineering. It had a pulsating synth beat, a catchy, repetitive chorus, and lyrics about dancing and forgetting your troubles that had been focus grouped to perfection. It was technically flawless, expertly produced, and completely, utterly soulless. It was the kind of song a committee would write if you asked it to design a hit. The single was released with a massive marketing push. But for the first time in Chloe's career, the public didn't bite. The song debuted much lower on the charts than expected and then quickly plummeted. The critical reception was brutal. The same reviewers who had once, ironically, praised Chloe's innate songwriting talent now savaged her. A generic, soulless piece of pop machinery. One influential critic wrote, "It seems the magic that made Reed's earlier work so special has vanished. All Night Long could have been sung by any pop star on the planet, and perhaps it already has been, under a different name." Her dedicated fans were even more confused. The comments on her social media were full of a new, worrying sentiment. "This doesn't sound like you, Chloe." Where's the heart? I miss your old songs. This feels empty. The fallout was swift. The record label summoned David and Chloe to their glass tower offices in Los Angeles. The label head, a ruthless executive named Marcus Thorne, did not mince words. He gestured to a large screen displaying a graph of the new single's catastrophic streaming numbers. "This is a disaster, David," Marcus said, his voice flat. "We've spent $1 million promoting a song that the public has rejected. They're saying the magic is gone. Frankly, I agree." He leaned forward, his eyes cold. "Your daughter's brand was built on a foundation of authentic, heartfelt songwriting. This is not that. I don't know what happened in your little family operation, but you need to fix it. If the next single isn't a real Chloe Reed hit, we will be seriously reconsidering the budget for this entire album." The threat hung in the air, thick and suffocating. The drive back to their hotel was silent and tense. The panic had set in. David spent the next week frantically calling other songwriters, trying to find someone who could replicate Maya's unique blend of vulnerability and commercial appeal. No one could. Chloe, for her part, tried to write her own music. She locked herself in her hotel room with a guitar and a notebook. But the words that came out were clumsy, the melodies faint echoes of things she'd heard on the radio. She had spent her entire life being the vessel, the performer. She had never been taught how to be the source. Staring at the blank page, she was faced with a terrifying truth. Without her sister, she was just a pretty face with a decent voice. The deafening silence in her career was the sound of Maya's absence, and she had no idea how to fill it. Part 8, the musical key. As the Reed family floundered in a sea of creative bankruptcy, Echo's quiet corner of the internet was flourishing. Her small, devoted following had grown into a substantial community. She had released 2 more songs since her debut, each one deepening the mystery and cementing her reputation as a singular talent. The critics adored her. She was authentic. She was poetic. She was everything the new Chloe Reed was not. Maya, in her small Philadelphia apartment, watched all of this from a safe, anonymous distance. She saw her sister's new single fail. She read the articles questioning Chloe's sudden lack of magic. She felt a grim, quiet satisfaction, but it was mixed with a familiar pang of sadness. She knew it was time for the next step in her quiet revolution. It was time to plant a key. She began working on a new song, but this time, her process was different. It was more deliberate, more strategic. She wasn't just writing from the heart. She was writing from memory. She thought back to Horizon Heart, the first song they had stolen, the one that had launched Chloe into stardom. It was a song about escape, about chasing the future. Maya decided to write its answer. The song she created was called Rearview Mirror. It was a haunting, atmospheric ballad built around a melancholic piano line. The lyrics used the same road trip imagery as Horizon Heart, but flipped the perspective entirely. Where Chloe had sung, "Got the sun on my face, a full tank of gas, nothing but a blue sky future, not thinking 'bout the past," Echo now sang, "You saw the sun on your face. I saw the dust you left behind. You called it a blue sky future. Was it just my heart you were trying to outdrive?" The lyrical parallel was sharp and poignant, but the real genius was in the musical structure. The chord progression in the verses of Rearview Mirror was identical to the progression in the chorus of Horizon Heart. But Maya played it in a minor key. the simple transposition transformed the bright, optimistic anthem into a melody of profound loss and sadness. It was the sound of the original song's hidden sorrow. And then, for the bridge, she did something even more audacious. She composed an intricate, beautiful piano solo. It was the exact original melody she had first written for Horizon Heart, the pure, unadorned version, before her father and the producers had sanded it down into generic pop. It was a musical ghost, a memory of what the song was supposed to be. She recorded it, filmed another beautifully obscured video, and uploaded it with the simple title, Echo, Rearview Mirror. The song was an immediate hit with her followers, who praised its heartbreaking beauty. But a few listeners, the ones with musically trained ears, noticed something more. In dorm rooms and home studios, a handful of fans started to play the two songs back to back. The part ends in a small apartment in Austin, Texas. A young music theory student sits with her headphones on, a look of intense concentration on her face. She has the sheet music for Horizon Heart open on her laptop. On her keyboard, she plays the chorus of Chloe's hit. Then, she plays the verse of Echo's new song. She plays them again. Her eyes widen in disbelief as she recognizes the identical structure, twisted into a new emotional shape. She grabs her phone and opens the Echo fan forum. Her fingers fly across the screen as she begins to type. The first key had just been inserted into the lock. Part 9. The first clues. The post appeared on the official Echo subreddit late on a Thursday night. It was titled, Mind Blown. Is Echo's rearview mirror a direct answer to Chloe Reed's Horizon Heart? The original poster, the music student from Austin, laid out her case with the precision of a prosecutor. She detailed the identical chord progressions, the minor key transposition, and the shocking lyrical parallels. It's not a coincidence or an influence, she wrote at the end of her post. This is a deliberate, direct conversation between two songs. It's like Rearview Mirror is the secret, sadder second half of Horizon Heart. What does this mean? The thread exploded. At first, there was skepticism. But as more fans listened to the two songs back to back, the evidence became undeniable. The post was shared to other music forums, to Twitter, to Facebook groups, dedicated to pop music analysis. The quiet whispers about Echo's talent turned into a loud, excited buzz about a genuine musical mystery. A fire had been lit, and the fans became digital detectives, fanning the flames. They began a forensic deep dive into Chloe Reed's entire discography, comparing it line by line, note by note, with Echo's small but growing body of work. Wait a minute, one user wrote. The bridge of Chloe's Lock and Key is this simple four-note synth pattern. But the intro to Echo's Cobblestone Heart uses those same four notes as a complex acoustic motif. It's the same skeleton, but one has real flesh on it. Another user posted a side-by-side comparison of lyrics. In Chloe's Summer Sun, she sings I'm Dancing in the Golden Light. But in Echo's new B-side, Winter Shade, she sings, I was the shadow that made your light look golden. This is getting weird. The clues started piling up. A recurring melodic fragment, a specific, unusual metaphor that appeared in both artists' work. The case they were building was circumstantial, but it was incredibly compelling. A dominant theory began to emerge, spreading like wildfire. Echo was the secret ghostwriter for Chloe Reed. She was the true talent, the invisible musician who had written all of Chloe's hits, and had now, for some unknown reason, gone solo. They saw Echo's work as the director's cut, the deeper, more authentic version of the story. In Nashville, David and Chloe watched this unfold with a growing sense of horror. David at first tried to dismiss it. "It's stupid internet nonsense," he told Chloe, his voice lacking its usual conviction. "It's just kids with too much time on their hands. It'll blow over." He had his PR team attempt to delete the more accusatory comments and threads, but it was like trying to put out a forest fire with a water pistol. Every comment they deleted seemed to spawn 3 more. Their attempts at censorship only fueled the conspiracy, making the fans believe they were hiding something. Chloe was terrified. She would spend hours reading the forums, watching her own carefully constructed image being dismantled by strangers on the internet, who, somehow, had managed to divine the truth. They didn't know Maya's name, but they knew she existed. The part ends back on the subreddit. The main thread now has thousands of comments and has been pinned to the top of the forum. The original poster, the music student from Austin, writes one final comment that night. A comment that will change everything. Okay, everyone. This is bigger than just a few songs. This is a whole hidden story, and I think we're just scratching the surface. Someone with a bigger platform, someone who does music analysis, needs to look into this. This isn't just a fan theory anymore. This is the Chloe Reed conspiracy. The fuse, once lit, had now reached the dynamite. Part 10. The twist. The viral exposé. Leo Chen, the host of the popular YouTube channel Pop Deconstructed, was a music nerd of the highest order. A Juilliard-trained composer who happened to love pop music, his channel was famous for its deep, insightful, and often funny analyses of popular songs. He stumbled upon the Chloe Reed conspiracy thread on Reddit while researching another topic. Intrigued, he spent the next week doing what he did best. He listened, he analyzed, and he deconstructed. A week later, he uploaded a 22-minute video titled, "The Chloe Reed Conspiracy is a Ghost Haunting Her Music." The video did not open with gossip or sensationalism. It opened with Leo at his piano. "I love Chloe Reed's music," he began, "but I've always felt what I can only describe as a ghost in the machine. A sense that there's a deeper, sadder, more complex artist hiding just beneath the surface of her brilliant pop hits. Today, I think I've found her, and her name is Echo." What followed was a masterclass in musical and lyrical forensics. Using split screens, Leo played Chloe's glossy, high-budget video for Horizon Heart next to Echo's simple silhouetted performance of Rearview Mirror. He overlaid the sheet music, highlighting the identical chord progressions, one major and one minor. "It's the same skeleton," he explained, "but one is dressed for a party, and the other is dressed for a funeral." He isolated the audio tracks, taking the original piano melody from Echo's bridge and layering it perfectly over Chloe's chorus, revealing a stunning hidden harmony. "This is not an influence," Leo stated, his excitement palpable. "This is a conversation, a counterpoint. One artist wrote both of these parts." He moved on to the lyrics, breaking down the call and response nature of their catalogs. He showed how Chloe's songs about summer love were answered by Echo's songs about winter loneliness, how Chloe's anthems of empowerment were shadowed by Echo's quiet meditations on being invisible. He concluded not with a wild accusation, but with a thoughtful, evidence-based theory. "I cannot say for certain what the story is behind the scenes," Leo said, looking directly into the camera. but the musical and lyrical DNA is undeniable. It is my professional opinion that one singular, brilliant songwriter is the author of both Chloe Reed's and Echo's entire body of work. And based on the raw complexity and staggering emotional depth of the compositions, I believe that a generational talent is hiding behind a mask, and her name is Echo. He ended the video with a simple request: listen for yourself, and the world listened. The video didn't just get views, it exploded. It went massively viral, breaking out of the niche fan forums and into the mainstream. It was shared by other YouTubers, tweeted by celebrities, written about by music journalists. The pop deconstructed video was so compelling, so thorough, and so respectful in its analysis that it wasn't treated as a conspiracy theory. It was treated as a credible piece of musical journalism. The question of who wrote Chloe Reed's songs was no longer a whisper on the web. It was a roar. Parte debe ser. The media storm. The viral video turned the tide from online speculation into a full-blown media firestorm. The story was irresistible. A beloved pop princess, a mysterious musical genius, and a perfectly presented evidence-based conspiracy. Major music publications like Rolling Stone and Billboard ran articles with headlines like "Echoes of a Ghostwriter," the growing controversy around Chloe Reed. Mainstream news outlets picked up the story, framing it as a modern mystery of identity and intellectual property in the digital age. For Chloe and David Reed, their carefully constructed world became a living nightmare. They were hounded by paparazzi every time they left their house. The questions were relentless and shouted from every direction. "Chloe, who is Echo? Did you write your own songs? Chloe, are you a fraud?" Their attempts to control the narrative were futile. David issued a stern press release calling the accusations baseless online rumors and an insult to Chloe's artistry. But the statement felt hollow and defensive against the weight of Leo's musical analysis. Every talk show host and entertainment journalist was discussing the pop deconstructed video. The evidence was simply too persuasive. The pressure from the record label became immense. Marcus Thorne called an emergency meeting with David, his voice devoid of any previous warmth. "This is a PR catastrophe, David," he said bluntly. "Your daughter's entire brand is built on authenticity, and right now, the most authentic thing about her seems to be this ghostwriter theory. We're putting the album release on indefinite hold. All promotion is frozen, and our legal department is launching an internal audit into your publishing contracts and songwriting credits. If we find any evidence of deliberate fraud, we will sue you for every penny we've invested." The financial and professional walls were closing in. The strain caused the already present cracks in David and Chloe's relationship to splinter into gaping fissures. They had a final explosive argument in their Los Angeles hotel suite. "I can't do this anymore!" Chloe screamed, tears streaming down her face, ruining her perfect makeup. "I told you this would happen. We can't keep lying forever. Everyone knows." "You will be strong," David yelled back, his face red with panic and rage. "You will go out there, and you will deny everything. We built this. You are Chloe Reed. Don't you dare let some nobody in a mask and some nerd on the internet take that away from you." "But it's not me," she cried, her voice cracking with a sob that sounded painfully real. "Don't you get it? It was never me. It was always her." Their partnership, forged in ambition and sealed by a lie, was irrevocably broken. Chloe was cracking under the impossible weight of upholding a false identity. and David, for the first time in his life, had completely lost control of the narrative. The storm was no longer something they could manage. It was about to make landfall. Part 12. The Melody of Truth. In a last-ditch desperate attempt to salvage their crumbling empire, David booked Chloe for a major prime-time live television interview. The host was a respected journalist known for her gentle but probing questions. The plan was for Chloe to deliver a powerful, heartfelt, and complete denial. To look into the camera and reclaim her story. Chloe sat on the comfortable sofa under the hot studio lights, a perfect picture of a poised pop star. The host began with easy questions, then moved to the heart of the matter. "Chloe," she said kindly, "the world has been captivated by this story, by the pop-deconstructed video. The musical evidence it presents is very compelling. So I have to ask you, directly, are you the sole writer of the songs that made you famous?" Chloe looked into the camera. The words of the prepared denial were on the teleprompter in front of her. She could see her father, just off camera, nodding, urging her to speak the lie. But as she opened her mouth, she didn't see the words on the screen. She saw her sister's face. She saw Maya at the piano, her sad, quiet smile. She saw the stolen song about heartbreak turned into a monstrous dance track. And she broke. She stammered, tears beginning to fall. "The songs, they wouldn't exist without my sister." The confession came out in a torrent of choked sobs. "My sister, Maya, she's the real genius. I couldn't have done any of it without her. She was the heart. I was just the face. And I miss her so much." It wasn't a full legal confession, but it was enough. It was a public admission of the fundamental lie. In that moment, Chloe Reed's career as a pop superstar imploded. As the internet erupted with news of Chloe's on-air breakdown, a simple black-and-white notification appeared on Echo's YouTube channel. It read, "Tonight 9 p.m. Eastern, live." The live stream started with a single fixed shot of a piano in a dimly lit room. The view count skyrocketed, climbing into the millions. People from all over the world were tuning in to see the ghost. Then the silhouetted figure of Echo walked into the frame and sat down at the piano. She began to play. It was The Architect, her raw, devastating ballad of heartbreak. The performance was mesmerizing, her voice clear and pure, filled with the authentic pain that its pop version had so grotesquely mocked. As the final, mournful chord of the song faded into silence, she did something she had never done before. She slowly reached up with both hands and untied the black silk ribbon of her mask. She lowered it from her face. The camera gently pushed in, and for the first time, the world saw the face of the genius. It was Maya Reed. She didn't smile. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. She simply looked into the camera, her eyes full of a quiet, powerful, and undeniable truth. She hadn't needed to say a single word of accusation. Her song was her testimony. Her music was her evidence. And her face, finally revealed, was her signature on the masterpiece of her own life. She had reclaimed her story, not with anger, but with the melody of truth.